Wonderful start. Nice.
Yeah, I found a few records that I don't think I've shown from this guy before, and this one I have 2 copies of. So I was like, okay, I need
That's
to play
always
it,
good.
so we can. I'll put it up on the OBC tomorrow. That's
nice.
and I fall in love again.
I think Recak wasn't that wrong when he said that sounds Italian, right?
Yeah, it is Italian. It's this one.
Quando per solitudine.
Is that Pietro Grossi?
No, Egisto Macchi, I think.
Egisto Macchi, yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah. Sorry, because that label, it's Egisto Macchi's label, yeah.
Yeah, he's a wonderful artist, Such great records, but when it comes to the prices of his records, quite different, right? You have some unbelievable expensive ones, then you have some decent one which is reasonable.
Yeah.
So that's would you say, Stanti, that the price goes with the quality of the record?
No, not in his case. It's just that he only has library soundtracks, to the best of my knowledge, plus the fact that he was part of Il Gruppo di Improvvisazione Nuova Consonanza with Ennio Morricone.
He was, because I discussed with Thomas, he was together with Morricone, right?
Yeah. So all his official releases are library soundtracks. So some had micro pressings, some had small pressings, some have been reissued. Some of his best ones are the ones you have. Some of them, Michael, the Gemelli, the one that Thomas was just playing. That's on his own label. There's for the longest time we didn't know. Like we maybe still don't know how many there are because Eina, and they were all like the same artwork, white cover with black text on it on a corner or something. And some of them are, I mean, Egisto Macchi, he did orchestral stuff. He did choir. He did folk music, or folkloric music, avant-garde music. He did it all, and there's I don't know. There's maybe 20 albums of him around.
Just one thing, because I have a new microphone today, so if I'm still too low, please tell me. I try to adapt. So
I think you're good, Michael.
Okay, cool. If it's too loud, say any also, of course. So quite interesting artist. And did I hear you correct when you said he only did library records?
To the best of my knowledge, outside of the record he was part of with Il Gruppo di Improvvisazione,
And Jose says there is a box set of him from 2016. You know that box set?
I think if I remember correctly, it's basically the record that Thomas showed. For the longest time, these records were super, super rare, and then people found stock copies of a bunch of them.
Yeah, but that's the Voix. I think that's the one I have, this Voix or Voix.
Oh, no. Vox is on Gemelli. This one is. I'm talking about the one that Thomas showed. Someone found stock copies of them, and they did a package. They put them back on the market as new records in a box. Some of them they did like a sort of box. I think that's what. If I remember correctly, I think that's what Jose is referring to. But correct me if I'm wrong, Jose.
Yeah, amazing artist, amazing. So at least what I've heard. How many of his releases do you have, Stanti? You have all you want, or are you still?
No. The one on Eina, I was like super focusing on him when the Eina stuff. There was only 2 that were known to exist, and now I guess I have enough. If I find them, I'll be happy to get them, but I don't seek them super hard. Like the one that Thomas is showing, that one I'm seeking very hard because it is on Gemily, and I'm not a completist of Gemily, but like I want every Gemily release that that I actually find interesting. Gemily was the label of whose label? Bruno Nicolai, I think.
Okay.
Yep.
No. Yeah, nice start. You have more of his to show us, or do you have something different for us now?
I'll play a little bit more from one of my favorite records of his. Yeah, I think this could be a soundtrack for a really cool Western movie, and it's
For sure.
so much feeling in it as well. So,
But this is one of the harder to get ones, right?
Not necessarily, no. No,
yeah.
this it's expensive, but it's not one of the most the rarest ones.
Okay,
I don't
maybe
f-
not the most rarest one, but I haven't seen a copy yet for me. I haven't.
I have that one.
Really? Nice.
Yeah, and you can hear the violin in it. That's the guy from Il Gruppo di Improvvisazione Nuova Consonanza.
So you remember the name. I always forget the name of this Italian jazz combo. That's why. Stanti, how have your days been?
It's all right. Been digging in the shops a little bit.
Stockholm and surroundings, or where have you been?
Yeah, Stockholm. And I found there's a shop that has a record I really want. It's a bit too much money, but so we'll see.
Isn't it always?
No.
No.
It's
So you haven't decided yet.
yeah, no. I have decided. I know I can't get it, but maybe I will manage to find a way to get it.
There are always ways. Maybe you trade in some records.
Exactly.
Have you prepared something for us too, or shall Thomas go for the next?
Thomas can go on. I
Okay.
haven't prepared anything.
Okay, Thomas, you can go on. Stanti hasn't prepared anything.
Okay, I think we'll stay in Italy then.
Yeah, let's stay in Italy. Are you aware, Thomas, Stanti, have you seen? They labeled their own music as background music. That's quite interesting. Maybe
Well, that's the concept of library, yeah.
Yeah, in a way it is. Yeah.
That's one of the other names of library music, background music. But
Isn't it?
this, yeah, for sure. This is on one of the many labels of Piero Umiliani. Piero Umiliani, who did so many records under so many different names. This one I used to have that one. I sold it a long time ago. It's I think, if I remember correctly, it's like a sort of super group that Umiliani is helming depending on what he needed, and this is the one record they did, and it's like a whole bunch of people. It's from the late 70s. I mean, you can hear when it's from.
Yeah, you can hear when it's from. So this is a library record, and within this group of library musicians, this is the hottest stuff from Italy on that record. Did I understand you correctly?
It's just like Piero Umiliani. He had so many names, many labels. This is Sound. What's the name of the label again, Thomas? Sound something.
Shop.
What did you say? Oh yeah, Sound Workshop. Yeah, SWS. Yeah, and there's, I don't know, like there's probably like something like 15, 20 records on that label. And all of them are Umiliani related, if I remember correctly. So there will always be at least interesting to check out. And that's that's a disco library soundtrack. So, and with good musicians.
The music on this label is not always disco related, right?
No, that's probably the only one that is disco like that. There are some that are like dark avant-garde electronics, folk music, like all kinds of stuff. But like a lot of library disco records are usually by one guy who's doing everything with synthesizers, drum machines, etc. There is not that many disco library albums that are by an actual band.
Interesting. You have more records from this label, Thomas, or is this the one you have?
Not that I know of, because I was just digging in the records.
The library section.
Yeah, and I never before until today thought about the label of this one.
Okay.
But I was like, I'll have a listen again to it. I haven't heard it for.
Yeah, I really love the cover art. And again, Stanti, correct me if I'm wrong, or Thomas, this is not your typical library cover art.
I mean, it fits the
generic at all.
No, but I will correct Thomas. Like, I'm 100% sure he has all the records on that label, because I'm sure he has the Moji Trascienza e Fantasienza with, the kind of Salvador Dali cover with like a black bean with a big eye.
Yeah. I definitely have more, because I've seen a lot about the label, but it's not one of those labels that I found this record and I looked up what else was on it, because I didn't like this one that much when I bought it. I thought it was okay, but I think it's growing a little bit on me, and I think there's like 4 good tracks on it. So
2 questions. One is probably easy to answer from Jose. Stanti, do you collect Klaus Weiss?
No.
And from I Am One of Us, why do they call it disco? It's so different. Stanti, explain that it's not that different.
Yeah, I don't understand how that is different. Actually,
quite typical for disco, right?
I mean, there's different type like disco. There, throughout the time of disco, there's different types of disco. There's like boogie, that was straight up a disco record. There's Italo disco. You have seeds of Italo disco in it, because there is, even if it's a band who's playing on that record, it's still pretty synthetic on some aspects, but that's what they were going for. In that case, what's interesting, it's not that they use these instruments because of a lack of means, but rather for aesthetic choices. So yeah. But Klaus Weiss, that Jose was talking about, he's done a lot of library soundtracks, a lot of stuff that is kind of like funky, electronic, a little bit cheesy. Yeah, it's often a little bit cheesy in my opinion, but and it is, but it doesn't mean it's bad. It's it's he used to be beloved like I think like 20 years ago when library soundtracks were starting to becoming the thing. DJs were like playing library soundtracks, and Klaus Weiss was always pretty easy to play out. So
okay.
Yeah.
On which label do we find him?
A lot on the German label. What's the name again? Like the with the bronze cover. All the covers are I forget the name.
Bro, you cannot have it all in your head. So, are you prepared now, or shall I go back to Thomas? No, okay, Thomas, it's you on the on the flow.
Okay.
Do we stay in Italy?
Now we stay in Italy for one more,
Cool.
and this one I looked for 20 years, and I still haven't got a original copy of it. But it's one of my favorite Italian records, and you know I love drums so much, so this one is like a drum song.
Okay, now I know it hurts, Thomas. I know it hurts, but that was one of the few times where you said that you don't have an original of this record.
Yeah.
Why? How comes?
I tried to buy it a lot of times, but and I made an offer a lot of time on it, but I never got it. And I was not ready to pay €1,000 for it 15 years ago, and now I'm not ready to pay 3,000, 2,800, 3,000.
Yeah, but if you would have known 10 years ago that it will be 2,800, 3,000 euros in 10 years, would you have bought it 10 years ago?
Yes.
4,000? Yes, huh?
Well, then I'm happy I paid 120 euros for it about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So you are not always a very nice person.
You never say I'm. You always say that I'm not a nice person anyway.
No, I know, no. And believe it or not, people, Stanti in real life is the nicest person you can imagine. He's such a kind and warm person. It's wonderful. He's a great guy. Not on stream, of course. Are you prepared now, or aren't you?
No, because
you're planning a sneaky attack.
No. I just basically realized I forgot my headphones in the main house, but that gives me an excuse to go and get some selected sound records. So
I agree, and I think no problem, Stanti, and I think Thomas is so well suited tonight that you can do that.
Yeah, but I'll just wait to hear the first cues of what Thomas plays next.
Okay.
But I did not prepare. Maybe this one could be a library record. I just don't know. No, it's not. But I could play from this one.
Bug. Okay.
I cannot drink. I cannot drink that much, Justin. That's impossible. Thomas, that was once more amazing. Can you tell us a little bit about it? Because I was totally unaware of that record.
Yeah, I don't think it's a library record because it's on Rope, but
No.
it has the same feeling as library records, and it's from Jean-Claude Care. I'm not sure if it's right. And,
So this is a European record or a US record?
It's a French.
Okay.
Yeah.
So cool.
It's pretty cool, and you can see like the Photoshop there was not that good at that time.
Yeah, and Mario Stark has a suspicion that this might be Stunty.
It could be.
In younger years, with darker hair, we will clear that when he's back. We will clear that. So is this an easy to get one, medium to get one, hard to get one? Do you know that?
I think it's a medium record. I haven't checked it up for a long time, but I think when I bought it, it was around 50. It might be 80 to
189. So it's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, but that's probably worth it. Is every song in that on that record in that style, this disco funky?
Yeah, this is the next track you can hear.
Oh, Streets of San Francisco, right, Thomas?
Sorry?
Streets of San Francisco.
Yeah, that's
just the time. It's just amazing.
And I think they managed to get everything like a police car. Like they put the pictures together after.
Probably. Jean-Claude Pelletier. I think we should remember the name, and I can imagine that Stunty can tell us a lot about this guy.
Yeah, he knows a lot about it. I think I bought it 10 years ago, 15 years ago, a long time ago. It was one of the first, but I only did it a few times since that, so it's not like an everyday record.
But Thomas, if you see that cover, would that be a cover buy? If you don't know about the record, and it's, let's say, between 50 and 120 euros, you see this jacket, would you say you would get into it or just go through it?
I would get into it. It's a little bit like the way they write the text, him on the photo, the way it look, it will be one that you need to check out.
Okay. Yeah, I ask you that because I know that you also dig through a couple of 100,000 records each month that are 1 or 2 euros. So you see a lot of jackets and also you have to adjust it by the cover quite often. Or do you know all the records you see?
No, I definitely don't know all the records I see, but you get the feeling. But one thing is, like, if you see like a terrible cover and you find out that it's a really rare record and there's really good tracks on it, you suddenly love the artwork.
Yes.
Like this one, I might
effective, yeah.
Like this one, I might not have. I would think like this is a cheesy gospel record, but this is a really, really cool soul record. That's
okay.
Really hard to find as well.
Stunty, we talked a bit about how much can you tell us. We said you can probably tell us a lot about this guy because he's French, and some even thought that you might be on the cover art.
No, I can't tell much. Like, wait, who is that? I don't know that record.
Jean-Claude Pelletier.
Jean-Claude Pelletier, yeah, no. Yeah, I know him. He's an arranger. He's a band leader, but it's not someone I've been really collecting or looking. I think I have a couple of records with like compilation libraries with stuff of him, or maybe not even libraries. I'm not sure, but I'm not. Yeah, so sorry to disappoint.
Yeah, you cannot know all French people, of course. That was we just thought you might say, "Oh, this is one of the greatest of whatever." Stunty, I haven't asked tonight, but are you prepared now?
The record was already prepared, and it is indeed for Thomas and for everyone.
Okay, so we can. where are you? Oh, yeah.
So this is a record that is almost like a library soundtrack, almost Danish, as you can hear. So I think it's sort of like a mixture of a children record that has the feel of a library. This is from a label from Faro, which is owned by Denmark, right?
Yes, it belongs to them, but they have their own stamps.
Own them. We are together.
Yeah. And this is a label, by the way. Nossi, the guy, Christian Black, Tuttle. There's like so many releases on that label. Most are like but some are like very charming like that and have this like library feeling both in the artwork and in the music. This was like basically like an Eric Satie record with some weird stuff happening in the background, and of course the clarinet that comes in. Simple music, very short tracks.
Yeah, but you put a wonderful word to it. It was very charming. I think charming describes what we have heard very good. That was really a charming record. And when you hold up the jacket with the cover art, in my opinion, it even got more charming.
And as you can see here, someone from Sweden decided to put his his contact on it so that it wouldn't get stolen.
So what year are we talking here, Stunt?
83.
83, okay. See, this is also over 40 years. Wow.
Yeah. Were you aware of this, Thomas?
No, I've seen the cover, but I didn't know it was this good. That's really my style.
Yeah, and it's Danish.
I think people from Faro said, no, it's from Faro. I can imagine that they are quite fond of having their own label.
Yeah, what's pretty funny is that the guy who did it, Christian Black, he does most instruments, but there's a lot of other musicians. But he plays clavier, harmonium, clarinet, gagophone, brixel, sangour, caramba.
And
on
he's
most
behind that label, Stunty?
Yeah, most releases on that label, he's behind them. Like it's him in a way or another, which also gives this even more of a library feeling. The label that Thomas was showing before, like the Sound Shop, Sound Workshop, Piero Emiliani, every record on that label has his hands on somewhere at some level. So.
And the label is still active?
No.
Oh, no, okay.
Yeah, unfortunately. Well, yeah. No, I think they kept on till the early 90s or something. So, but this is one of the early releases on the label. I'm not totally sure, actually. Yeah.
That was quite inspiring, wasn't it, Thomas?
It was really inspiring, and the funny thing is, like the track I was putting up next is a little bit the same. So, and that's like again an Italian library records that I found here, but it has the same feeling for me to it.
That means swimming forbidden.
You know, one of her boobs is bigger than the other.
The right one, right?
Yeah, yeah, 1963.
60.
Yeah, that's when Umiliani, he was still more like of an orchestrator and musician rather than doing experiments. Like the experimental stuff started like later, yeah.
Stunty,
Yeah, I think
at the beginning of this stream, you said something like, before a library became the big thing to collect or something like that. When did library became a thing? When was that?
I guess every generation before me would, some would say that it was before, but I think
Yeah.
it was, I think it was around 2005 it started, that like DJs started to look into it. I mean, you would look into it before that, but like the craze, like basically when hip hop producers started to pay crazy money for these records to sample, and dealers were like, oh, okay, this is where we're going. And you had like record dealers who were specialized in library soundtracks only, almost.
So that means that sounds like late 90s, early 2000, or a little later.
A little later.
Yeah, yeah, but then again, early 2000 DJs. In which clubs did you play library music?
Or
It was
not in dance floor clubs. You would
Yeah.
play them in club nights in specific places, and yeah.
Lounge bars and stuff like that.
Even though,
Yeah.
well, let me play you a library soundtrack that I've played in clubs.
Sure.
So for me, this is almost like a Drexia.
Yeah.
Drexia track. It's from 1984. James Asher, who I've because of that track. I mean, I bought this every time I see that record. I buy it, and you could find it for somewhat cheap for the longest time because no one had really figured it out. And so I'm pretty, I'm pretty sure I was one of the people who championed that record for some time before it became like, I don't even know if it became famous, but it should because of that track and Electro Confusion.
Stanley, that goes right into the hands of the question of Justin Peters. Very interesting question. Have all library records been discovered?
I don't think so.
Or still good stuff?
I mean, by definition, we or like there are still new library records that are getting added to Discogs that are not there yet. So it's getting rarer and rarer, but it's still and also there's discovered and discovered, like people discovering that the record exists and then people realizing that there's something really unique about that one or one track on it.
You know, Santi, there is something that's quite significant, but I cannot put it into words music-wise. Maybe you can, or maybe Thomas can. Library records aren't genre-specific at all, but always, even when they do disco or world or whatever, it has a library-specific touch to it. What is that library-specific touch? Is it the background thing, or what is it?
I think because of the nature of the music and the way it was produced, with some exceptions, most of them have a very minimalistic production. You won't have like giant, like great arrangements of strings and horn. And also they were made pretty fast. So there's a sort of like almost a stream of consciousness aspect to it. Like when James Asher did that track on this record, it's by far the best track on the record. And I'm not going to lie, but it's well, he has a studio where everything is already plugged. They ask like he's being given a theme or not, and he just runs the machines, has fun, and oh, this is cool. And then he just makes a quick arrangement, which means that like he assigns an amount of time that needs to be short often, but also just that he can give what he has to give for that track. So that's why most tracks are between like 40 seconds and under 3 minutes. Very rarely you have
add the quality, because maybe we always get the essence of a song.
But
I think so.
You need to listen to 1,000 to find one good one. It's not. It's and you can get them new. They still do them. I have a friend who find music for commercial and stuff like that, and he has thousands and thousands of CDs years ago. And I was like, oh, some are really, really good, and nobody never hear it. So it could be fun to take some of those really good new ones and put up on vinyl as well. But it's still a huge market, and I remember listening to 1,000 song tracks to find one that you could use for a commercial.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to find. You get so tired of sitting trying to find music. You make some yourself.
So getting into library without curation is tough work. Did I understand you correctly?
Yeah. Go for those you know that somebody else has listened to. I have a label here with 260 records that I haven't had time to go through them yet. But I know there's good tracks on there, and you might be able to find 50 of them on Discogs. So but it will take.
And the journey hasn't ended yet, as there is also added new stuff. But as you already said, not on vinyl, right? Those records don't come on vinyl.
I think they're only on files now, but like 5 years ago, there were a lot of time they were on CDs as well.
There's a label called Low Recordings in the UK that has started its own library branch, and they also did compilation of library stuff curated by people like Luke Vibert and the guy, like people whose music has something to do with library. But they also have released a bunch of new libraries, as Thomas said, digital, some CDs, and exceptionally sometimes on vinyl.
So is there a reissue market on vinyl from the?
Oh yeah. Well, that Sorghini record that Thomas showed you, that was a reissue.
Yeah, as he doesn't have the original, right? So he has to have a reissue.
No, but like, and it's fairly. I think it's. I don't know when it started, but I remember. I think it was about 10 years ago, a little less than 10 years ago. I started to get a lot of emails or messages from Discogs, people asking me if I wanted to sell my library records or if I wanted to record, digitalize it. So I think a lot of people were buying records, or not a lot, but a few guys in Switzerland, in Italy, they were like buying back these records with the objective to reissue them. And they wouldn't say that out loud back then, but you kind of knew, like, because it was kind of also like treasure thing. Like at one point there was a sort of preciousness about it. Like you didn't want the knowledge to spread too much. You could feel in the scene of the people who collected that. They were like kind of a bit cagey, but self-satisfied as well with their library collections. And sometimes with distance now, we see that a lot of the stuff that was hyped back then, like around 2005, 2010, 2012, 13, is not the best stuff. But that kind of answers a previous question you had, Michael, about like, has everything been discovered? Well, every 5-10 years, like the whole, like, you know, the pantheon of library changes a little bit because we discover stuff that is better.
Mm-hmm.
Like Johnny Trunk from Trunk Records, he did a library record book that was pretty great and instrumental. A lot of people got into it thanks to that. So much so that it became a sort of Bible for library enthusiasts. I have it somewhere here, but in reality, you could feel that the guy was English because the amount of British stuff that was not important. Like, I mean, he had great Italian stuff, French stuff, German stuff, but he had way more English stuff because that's what was available to him. So,
of course, But so the main countries for library, we already stated that, but hey, we probably have also some new viewers, different viewers. French, Italy, right?
France, Italy, and Great Britain and England, and right behind Germany.
So no Danish library, Thomas?
I don't think so. But I went to Denmark's radio. That's the radio station, TV station in Denmark. And I went to the vinyl library, and they had like a wall of only library music. And there was 2 copies. They had everything from all the labels, and there was 2 copies of each of them. You were like, all the good one was there.
Okay, and did you get some, or didn't they sell?
They're not selling. To sell one, they need to find out. They need to listen to both copies, like from start to end, finding out to keep or to sell. So, but there was too many people wanting those records. But
yeah, of course.
At some point there was a radio station in every part of Denmark. So there was Denmark's radio had like small radio station, and they gave all the albums to Denmark's radio. So they needed to sort out which one was 2 copies of. But I found a Flirty Liz, which is like a 5,000 euro record, was there. But they always had like labels all over the radio station. But
it's not just that. Also, I took a few examples of like as library soundtracks were from the country, but the concept was like like for example, as they were being sent to production companies. Well, how many production companies do you have available in Italy back then, or in France? So they were international. So which means that a lot of records will have stickers like that. That sometimes you stupidly take off back when you were young. You managed to do it a good enough job, but still, why take them away? And here's another one. So this is Montparnasse 2000. Which is a famous French library soundtrack. Basically, library soundtrack labels were distributors often for other library soundtracks labels from other countries.
Okay. Gentlemen, more music. Who is prepared and who is not? Stantish seems to be prepared, so he has
another, because like it's funny, I think we mentioned maybe more last week that you wanted to do more about libraries, and we didn't talk more about that.
No, we didn't.
But then Thomas played them, and then I went up in the house, and here we go. So I would say that this is a good case to make for the idea of drum and bass having been invented in France in the 70s.
Yeah, and then the flute, that was really quite something, right? Not
and
to
in
be
the background, you also have this choir of these like female voices that is very ambient. You barely notice it, but so that makes it very French. But this is a drum and bass track, literally.
Yeah, at least at the beginning, no doubt about that. Yeah.
No, but even like the drums, the tempo, but and here, this record I actually bought less than 2 years ago for 15 euros.
Nice.
So there is still always the possibility of finding stuff. You just have to, I guess. One of the important things is having the ability to project. Like when you hear that, okay, it is what it is, and then it's a drum and bass track, and suddenly, this is insane. A library record, like a French record from late 70s. The record this is the only track like that on the record, but
and the rest is polka? No,
the rest is more like I can show you quickly. So it's not bad record. It's just that what's cool about it is that track that is really different from anything else from that time. So, and I have no idea.
I like
Sorry?
the other songs. I really like the other songs.
Yeah, they're fine.
You
I
again
mean,
had a bit of San Francisco vibe in a way. I like it.
yeah. Often you would have like, of course, like this is called Chicago 2000.
Yeah.
Often, as library soundtracks were French, Italian, German, you try to have a name that is like makes it more exotic and more exciting.
Music from the future, at least at that time. Thomas is really working, and I think he got inspired by your record. Let's give him some time. Hey, Joe is asking for a label. Do you know that, Stunty? The Ebonite label, or Thomas Ebonite label?
I don't know it.
Thomas?
No.
Too special, hey, Joe.
Too cool.
Too cool.
Maybe it's crap.
Probably it is. No, I'm kidding. Of course it isn't. Thomas, you have something for us?
Yeah, I thought, because we said, does there come anything from Denmark?
Mm-hmm.
And there was like, I found one here, but I was not right. I needed to look up. But it is music made for television, but
Okay.
for a certain television program, and it's from Sweden.
Okay. He died. Lordy. Cool. It raises the question, what television do you have in Denmark?
It's made for ballet.
Ah, wow.
Yeah.
Stunty, did you know that?
I know the composer, Georges Ridel. This one I didn't know. No.
You liked it, huh?
Yeah.
I just thought that might be the music when your news starts or something like that. That would be cool.
It's made by Swedish Radio, and it's on their Swedish Radio label.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Swedish radio label, like this is the first design, or I mean, you also have the NCB logo down there, Nordic Copyright Bureau, which is actually based in Denmark, which is but the Swedish radio is they had like great designers and curators who came from experimental music, who were typographers and stuff like that. It's yeah.
That was quite something, Thomas. So and you consider this a library record? Yeah, why not? I mean, hey.
No, I don't do that. No. Okay. It's made for a certain ballad, so it's not like a library. It's not like things you can use, and the whole album is made for that one ballad. But I thought it was a library, so I just needed to look up to see if it. But it wasn't.
Okay, here's a question for Thomas. He doesn't ask me, he asks you. Are you going to any of the Oasis reunion shows, Thomas?
I'm scared that I could be disappointed, and I think they could be sold out right away. I know they do. I would like to go to Manchester to see one of the shows. I think they do 5 shows there.
In Manchester, okay. Yeah, that makes sense, of course.
Yeah. I would love to see it, but it's for me. It's not to die for.
I love what one of the brothers said about the other brother when he said, "My brother is a human with a fork in his hands in a world full out of soup." Yeah, I think so. You're right. I think Stunty will do the whole tour, right?
I think that Richard James didn't ask me the question because he knows he doesn't want to get banned from my channel. But we were talking about how
that's smart at Topo. That's smart. Good choice. Good.
We were talking about how library soundtracks got like hyped again for several reasons, including money being there because hip hop producers were sampling them. And someone was saying, William, I think there before, that like the track I played before was too fast for sampling. Yeah. Well, the next one, if you're a hip hop head, I'm sure that even if you're not, you might. I don't know how much Thomas actually is a hip hop head. I know he is to a certain degree, but like if you're a hip hop head, the first few seconds there should tell you something.
Do you dance to this music sometimes when you're alone, Stunty?
Actually, this track is called Au Bal Musette, which means at the ballroom, like kind of old school kind of. The fact that this was sampled by, I think it was the Wu-Tang Clan. I'm not totally sure. Or one of the guys from the Wu-Tang Clan. Like, for me, it's difficult to remember that this is originally meant to be like a folky ballroom thing. Yeah, this was on the French label Saint-Germain-des-Prés, but it was also, because it's Alessandroni, this is the French pressing. There's also an Italian pressing from the same time. Saint-Germain-des-Prés was one of the big labels of libraries. So some people...
Stickers where your hands are those stickers or is it printed?
No, it's printed. Okay. Oh, funny, actually.
Is like it the 102nd release or is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I have more here. Like, see.
107. Okay. Yeah.
Symbolisme psychédélique. Yeah, but so often the design would be like an abstract, like they're all different, but you can see the the connection, of course.
So at the time when they put out those records, Dante,
Yeah.
the companies just did subscribe and got the record automatically, or how did it work at the time?
Companies would express an interest, would be sent the records for free. That's why you have these radio stations that have full sets of these, because they didn't pay for any. But here,
Okay.
a little fun thing. So you have the glossy cover. The back, the gloss is only like here, 1 centimeter.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, okay.
And what was I going to say about that? Yeah, see, here you have often you have some writing on the cover. Here I managed to erase most of it without damaging the printed matter, which was like, it took me hours to do that. But there were like horrible blue marks, blue writings on the cover, on the back cover there.
Yeah, it's
And,
working. But Sandy, let's stick to that point because I find that quite interesting. So the business model behind it is that if a company uses it, they has to pay a fee, a certain fee for
Yeah.
using it for whatever purpose.
Yeah.
So this fee then has to be quite high, because otherwise the whole business model, I mean, sending out free records to a lot of companies, radio stations, etc. Come on, it has to work somehow, right?
It is still, yeah. I at the same time, as Thomas said, that there are still library soundtrack companies,
Yeah.
but not really labels anymore.
Yeah, but Stanti, big difference creating a file for download or sending out a physical record. That's wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
What do you
Yeah.
think is going on with Thomas? Huh?
Come again?
What do you think is going on with Thomas? Okay, I'll cue something on then, but someone was talking about a record from that label, another French label called Cria Sound Unlimited. Let me find the track.
Oh, I put that up later. We should discuss this. Acid house in the 70s.
Yeah, it is kind of like I usually say this is kind of sort of an Aphex Twin type of track, but indeed from France, from the late 70s, early 80s. Often with library soundtracks, you don't know exactly when they were released because most labels, like that was not really the concern about, like, especially you don't want maybe also back then to say, oh, this record is like 4 years old, when you're basically using them because they are supposed to be very current and to add to your production values. But Georges Rodi, he had quite a few releases. This is on the Crea Sound label. Sometimes the labels change name during their history and become part of another label. So sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to follow the trajectory of the labels, especially if you start now. This I got 25 years ago at least.
Okay.
As you can see, it's like new. So what happened is, even if that label was pretty successful, or what is successful for library soundtracks back then, we will never really have the means to know. But someone basically just sought out in France the guy who produced them, found him. Oh, he had that many copies left, and bought everything from him, and or bought everything he could, and which means that around 2001, 2002, 2003, there were like 3-4 guys in Paris who had stock copies of this.
Nice.
And suddenly these records were worth like 20 euros. Now
you just have to be lucky, right?
You have to be lucky, persistent, proactive, and yeah. So it's not totally luck.
Yeah, of course not. And you have to have the connections, of course.
Well, you're in France, so look for French libraries. Don't look for Italian libraries. That will be difficult.
Exactly. Hey, Joe wants to know what it's worth now.
I don't know exactly. Look it up on Discogs, Joe. I'm sure you have. I think that Joe is like kind of giving us a little bit of shit today. I think it's because he has just started to collect library soundtrack, and he's annoyed at us like sharing all these ideas and knowledge. But do you have this one, Thomas?
No.
Maybe you has one. If Liam's price is correct, which I doubt, Thomas will have one.
I mean, like if you were into libraries like 15 or 20 years ago, you would have gotten one of this for a reasonable price. Because again, like around 2005, we were discovering all these things, and often the guys from the labels were still alive and were sitting on unsold, undistributed copies, and had no idea what to do with them. So it was pretty good. There was basically either that or waiting for a radio station to contact a record shop and say, oh, we have all these records. We have these 3,000 records for sale.
KRWD, I don't think that the reissue means that the original will get cheaper. Usually it's quite the opposite. Thomas, welcome back. But you haven't been gone in a way, right? You were just out of the camera.
Yeah, I was looking for because I saw some yesterday, some library records that has some really good samples on them from hip hop samples, but I couldn't find them. I can't remember where I put them.
The story of your life.
It was yesterday.
Yesterday is not today, but you are still prepared in a way, as we can see at the turntable.
Yeah, it's not a library record, but it's weird because I looked for a Prince track for so many years.
Yeah.
That I don't think exist on vinyl.
Okay.
But I saw Moody Man playing it, so I was a little bit maybe he just made a copy himself. Because I don't think it exists on anyone. It's not. Yeah, but then I was putting some records up on the OBC.
Yeah.
And I got to this album.
Okay.
And I was like, I couldn't remember what it was, and I was like, what is this? But I was thinking of it the whole day today. Should I sell it or should I not sell it? So it touched me in somehow, and I think it's because it's so close to the Prince track that I'm looking for the melody in this track. There's several good tracks on it.
So how did you decide? Did you put it up or didn't you?
I put it up, but I'm still not sure. So it might not be there for so long. But it's because I think it's a record that I'm not finished with, because I already like 2 tracks on it. So and I haven't only skimmed through it. But I will play this one, and if you're quick, you'll be able to get it. It's not an easy record to find.
Yeah.
Prince did it in 1977. It's called instrumental track number 5 when he does it. Do It Any Way You Want is the title on this one. Might be the year after, so I'm not sure how it fits together, but I can see he do other tracks that's been out before. I'll just play a little bit more from another one.
Yep.
And you will know what it is when you hear it. If you mix 2001 with Placebo, you get this.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I have 2 disco versions of that. It has been covered a lot at the time, or a lot. I don't know if maybe we have, between Thomas and me, we have all the covers of that, maybe. But it's. I mean, if you're a string arranger, of course, if you have the possibility to do your own take on that, you will take the chance.
Of course. Yeah, but that was quite funky and great version of it. I really enjoyed that one. Really enjoyed that one. Stanti, how's your take on that one? Too funky for you? Too easy?
No, yeah, in a way, like the bass is really doing its own thing and doesn't really care about the rest. In a way, it's not a bad bass by any means. It's
But
just
isn't
like
that the job of a good bassist to just don't care?
no. I mean, it's doing too many notes in a way to be really powerful. But then again, like it's a pretty down tempo version anyway, so that's fine. It's not a club party tune, this version, but it was pretty fun. Like the piano, the keyboard was really cool.
I was unaware of this record. Great one, yeah.
And it's one of those you will leave. It could look like a €1 record if you.
Yeah.
And it maybe a country. It's made in Nashville, so it's
crazy.
In any way.
Actually, the next record I have, which is also a library. Again, I'm on the sorry, like you put me on the library trail, I go on the library trail. I put the track in the middle. The beginning is great, but it's just because you get to a sort of like almost. You'll see. It works, but it shouldn't in a way. So what's pretty amazing with that track is you got like this sort of almost honky-tonk piano coming in that shouldn't work, and it's just perfect, and it reminds you of stuff the way they would be doing it in underground resistance like 20 years later or so, or no, 15 years later. And I'm gonna play another excerpt from that record because to show you that, like, again, like when you go into library records, if you want to be cheeky, you could say, okay, drum and bass was invented in France in the late 70s. And with this, Detroit techno was invented in France in the early 80s. like I remember going to a shop in Paris that was known for being not like a specialized shop in library soundtracks, but the closest you could get to that, because like you knew they had like thousands of them and they knew what they had. So you weren't going there to dig for stuff in a way, you were going there to buy stuff. And I was still digging in the other stuff and I found this and it was $5. And I was like surprised, because you know that like if it's $5 there, it must be shit. And I showed that to them and they said, oh, it's shit. And the guy behind it, he has done nothing else. He has another library soundtrack that is shit, for real. And I tested it and I listened to it in the shop with them and they were like, eh. And I was like, okay, I'm happy with that for €5. And for this one, I know I was the one who championed that first, who really broke the record to a certain degree. And now, like these two tracks, they've been reedited, compiled, and stuff like that. But like, there will probably still be tracks like that you just need, again, an ear that perceives the potential of these tracks and to see them in a wider context. Because if you're into like soul, funk, jazz, maybe these tracks won't tell you anything if that's your main culture, soul funk or disco funk. But so
But something I think you said now several times, and it wasn't totally wrong when you said that, oh, see, here you have Chicago House 15 years before it started and other styles before it started. I think one of the main reasons might be that they had an unbelievable amount of freedom when they did their records, and they just could go for it and they just could try things out, right?
I guess that when the guy did that track, the only framework that existed was stuff like Tangerine Dream and stuff like that. So not that many bands who were maybe not that available back then. Or I mean, Tangerine Dream was, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally get it. Yeah.
Like when E2 E4 by Manuel Göttsching was released in 82, 83, 82, I think.
I think
82, yeah. So back then they only did 1,000 copies of it.
Luckily
at first.
Thomas, still on the library train, or did you prepare something else?
Both. I found one more library record here. I only have like 100 records close to me, but I found one more library record here. So I think this one is worth listening to, but it's a different style. Yes.
Okay, give us some insights, Thomas.
It's again a library record. It's Piero O'Malnini there.
Yeah.
And it's from 1971. And and I think this is one of those who are difficult to find. So I don't know if I put up on the OBC, and I don't know what the price it should be, but it's not that easy to find, I think.
Every record on Omnicron, the label, which is another label of Piero Umiliani, they're all rare because the pressings were very small. They've all been reissued now, or most of them at least. But Omicron is one of the very collectible labels, I find. This one, I've been looking for it for more than 20 years, so I would buy that from you, Thomas.
Oh, you can look up at the OBC. Maybe Thomas has a weak spot for the OBC and puts it up there.
I think I don't have any records that I don't want to sell, but all records have a price that that you feel like, okay, I'm ready to sell it. So, and I remember what I paid for it, and it was not cheap.
Yeah.
and this is a near mint copy, and it's
that's the problem when probably Thomas audiophile journey looked it just up at Discogs and found one copy for 400 and thinks that's also the price for a near mint copy. Play great.
Actually, in reality,
but it's
sometimes it can be like that, but also like if there is a copy available for 400, it also tells you something, to be fair. Like a lot of like the library soundtracks that go for a lot of money are the funky ones. The ones that are abstract, experimental, weird. The expensive ones usually go for between 120 and 250 usually that's how you get them, unless you're lucky and you get them for less or much less. But and again, like I think Thomas will concur with me, because of the nature of the distribution of these records, there are often mint. Like usually there's three conditions for library soundtracks. Either they're mint or like near mint, obviously.
They're open,
Or they would be near mint if no one had written on the cover and glued a sticker on the label for some reason, but the record will still be playing like near mint. Or they're battered because like no one cared for that. But most often library soundtracks are in good condition, in nice condition.
Yeah, but I agree on this one with Marius once more, because I don't think that was weird or obscure.
Yeah, but Marius has crossed over to the weird side. He maybe doesn't realize that. I think he does. Like for most people who collect stuff like that, that was not a funky record. And
it wasn't funky, but it wasn't obscure either. And it had this typical part of a record somehow you want to have.
The rest of the record is more weird.
More weird.
Yeah, it's a weird record. Trust us.
You just can talk about the song I just heard.
Yeah.
Okay,
Michael,
it's this time of the evening where we start to put up the last tracks.
Already? Okay. I just wanted for you to put back a comment. Where was it? It was Mac Toasty.
Mac Toasty. The synthesizer is fancy?
Yeah. So I looked for a record on Selected Sound, the library label we were talking about in Germany, with the copper bronze covers, where Klaus Weiss was a regular. One record that was released on that label I have, but I couldn't find it. I'm gonna play another record by that guy because I bought a few records of him, and it kind of addresses this idea of the synthesizer in its infancy.
Okay. Manfred, you will get through this. Interesting.
So what's pretty amazing with this is that this is electronic music without electronics.
So what does
Oscar
it
Sala designed the Trotonium, this keyboard that has electricity in it and proto-electronics, but not. It doesn't have any oscillators, which is the basis of electronic music. He designed that in the 30s and recorded film music for many movies, to the point that he is actually the guy who recorded with Bernard Herrmann the music of The Birds, Alfred Hitchcock.
Mm-hmm.
All the, not just the sound effects were made with this, but the music was made with this instrument that was so complex and so illogical in a way that when Oscar Sala died, no one knows how to use it properly. Like literally, this instrument still exists and no one knows how to use it. I mean, you can use it and do a few things, but he created it for himself. It became an instrument that has, how do you say, an oeuvre.
This is. I just had an alarm here in my house, but I think we found out what it was. Sorry. Yeah, this is really impressive, Stunty, considering the fact how those people, how deep those musicians, those artists has to go for doing their music, right?
Yeah.
First, you have to develop an instrument that doesn't exist. Wow. Yeah.
And he did a whole LP of library music for Selected Sound. And I have like maybe 4 different library soundtracks, LPs, that have 1 or 2 tracks by him that I collect. I collect everything with him. He was kind of rediscovered in the 90s on the label Fax, where they did like a compilation of his stuff on CD. But the records are not easy to find, but they're not invisible. Like if you look for them, they're not super cheap, but they're not expensive either.
When are those records? Because
well, the music on this one is from 61, and it is film music. Filmmusik aus islamischer Kleinkunst. Filmmusik aus Zeichnungen von Oswin. Or Platon stuff as well. But it's from 1961. The record was released later, of course, because this is film music. This was not meant. This was released in 84 on Vergo, on the Vergo Spectrum label.
Cool stuff. Thomas, you liked that, huh? Didn't you? Very interesting stuff.
I definitely did.
So the last track of Stunty gave us something to think about for the night. Very interesting.
It's not my last track, Michael.
Oh, not? Okay, so it is okay. Okay. So who has the last track tonight? Is it Thomas or is it Stunty?
It's not my last
track. What did Thomas say?
It's also not his last track. So you want to go on or what? Okay. Hey, who am I?
No, I just I found another record today that I haven't heard for many years, and it's made in Norway.
Okay.
And
why not?
And he became a big star later, but in the like soul disco area. But this one is more jazzy and a different feeling to it. I'll play a little bit here.
signs, and I've got to find out. You can't waste no time. You've got to believe. Oh, baby. You've got to hold on and keep on believing, doing what you're doing. Do you believe that I'm on the low? I wonder. It's your thing, you can do what you wanna do. Don't let nobody tell you who. You can sock it to.
Nice one.
It's a funky live session from 19. I think it's 71, as I remember. It's 72.
71.
So
71.
Yeah.
Yeah.
71. And normally I'm not that much into live record, but this one gives you a different feeling of all the tracks they're playing here.
Nice.
And that one I'll put on the OBC.
Oh, you put it on. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Because there was already a request.
Yeah.
You know, the backside would have made, turn it around, I think the backside would have made an amazing cover art.
Yeah. It is, yeah.
Stanti, are you aware of this record? Did you know
it? Yeah. I actually, funnily enough, I have it, but I'm missing one of the two records in it. And I'm missing the first. It's a double, yeah. And I'm missing. It's weird because, like, basically, there's a reissue, I think, of it as a single LP, which is a compilation of, like, it's. There are long tracks on that record, and so one of the tracks I'm missing, that, like, the track that Thomas was playing, basically is on the reissue, and is not. It is on the record I'm missing, so I'm yeah.
But it's the first track is on the reissue, but in a short version, so it goes direct to the singing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's bad. Why do they do this? I mean, that's stupid thing to do.
That was why how I learned about the record, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's a reissue from I think it came out in the 90s or early 2000s. Yeah. So the people who were into it, they were into it because of the breaks. It's the culture of people looking for breaks. And so they didn't care about the other tracks that are not really like that. And that track is really like the drummer here. You can hear his... I mean, this was really hard in a way, but there was something spiritual, like gospel about it in a way as well. In a quite extreme way, albeit, but admittedly. But yeah. Well, it's one of these records that I've seen it one time and I didn't know it was a double. So when I bought it, I got it for 30 euros. So I was pretty happy. But
but is it safe to say, or is it correct when we then talk about a reissue? It's a partial reissue to get it on one record.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't accept that. No,
I don't think you can find the original on, not even on Discogs. I don't think there's any for sale on.
Okay.
And I think last it was sold for 600 or 800.
Thomas, when you put it up, send me an SMS.
Yeah, I will.
Stunty, so will we hear now your last song, or do you reject again?
So
correctly, when we talk about library, you almost always choose this KPM label, right? Is it a big one, and that's the reason, or is it a very special one, or both?
it's a very special one. KPM has, I think, the ratio of good, like when Thomas says like 1 to 1,000, KPM is even worse. Like there's so many KPM records that are like not necessarily bad, but like nothing special. This one has Basil Kirshen.
Yeah.
As there's 2 Basil Kirshen records on KPM.
Can you please state the name of the album again? I think it was.
It's Music of the Nations, Volume 2, Arabic, Asian, Oriental. It's funny how like people were saying like it reminded them of the desert and all that. For me, I see a very steamy, wet, and hot jungle, like something.
No, I'm on the desert side of things.
I'm in Cambodia, like in the jungle of Cambodia, or in India, like something really haunting. But I'm in apocalypse now, basically.
Let's get into it, please. If you know, Volume 1 is which country? You know,
Volume 1 is not that interesting.
Okay.
So I've been obsessed with Basil Kirshen for over 20 years now. There's only one. There's 2. He has a bunch of 10-inch EPs on the Musique de Wolf label with pretty cool covers, all of them. I'm still missing 3 of them. But yeah, I bought records, libraries records on Southern Records, which have like maybe 1 12-second long track by Basil Kirshen. He's one of these guys who can create something instantly, like the typical Basil Kirshen sound would be stuff like that instantly you know it's him. So basically, British 60s, early 70s jazz with lots of exotic percussions. Basically, Basil Kirshen's dad was the leader of a big band. He took over the band, and so he has this. He's an arranger. He is a bit like Gil Evans in a way. He's a sort of British Gil Evans with a sort of, like post-colonial music.
Yeah. You know, I thought of William S. Burroughs. I don't know why, and this Marrakesh thing.
It's Ed Topo is right, actually. Like there's one of these libraries where Jimmy Page is playing the guitar on most tracks before.
That's crazy.
And he he was a master arranger, director, and composer. He also he became blind, so he has, which
Okay.
maybe I say that because of that, but in his music I also get like the Moondog feeling. There's this whole thing of something very joyful, but also a bit odd, a bit left field, and with a lot of arrangements, a lot of stuff happening.
Yeah, and then when we started to get Thomas showed the back of the record, and it says background music. That last song wasn't background music.
Yeah, it takes a lot of room, you could say. Yeah,
it does take.
What do you think of Basil Kirschen, Thomas?
Yeah, that's tracks that I really like. It has the feeling that I love. That it doesn't sound like anything else I know of, but it's a journey that I would like to hear the whole album of those.
He has a couple of albums from the 60s, early 70s. One that is extremely rare, that is called Journey into Worlds. No, with Worlds Within Worlds, which is from 68 or 69. Liner notes by Brian Eno. The jacket is gorgeous. Uncredited, you have Ivan Parker on saxophone on it and Derek Bailey, but the record is like a jungle big band weirdness. The volume 2 of that record is much easier to find and is really good. He also did a bunch of soundtracks for like horror movies, British horror movies of the early 70s, late 60s.
Hammer Studios?
Yes, that kind of stuff, exactly. So yeah.
Do you have that record you just quoted?
Yeah. Like the only one I don't have, apart from Free Library 10 inches, is an unreleased soundtrack that was reissued in 6 copies only, which is
okay.
Which was basically they did well. The reasoning was that the guy who did that, he did that as a charity. Like basically, they sold that record for a lot of money, and everything went to Basil Kirshen's health bills or something like that. Which, because like weirdly enough, if you do 6 copies of a record, you will raise more money than if you do 300.
Of course. They knew the mechanisms back in the day too.
But I mean, eventually it will be reissued. I think I'm pretty sure that, because the guy who did it, Trunk, like eventually he's just keeping it exclusive for the longest he can, and he still has access to a lot of unreleased tapes of him. So that's what's been going on for the past 15-20 years now. There's a regularly new unreleased stuff from him.
If possible, Stunty, maybe next week play something from this Basil record, the jazz record you just talked about. That would be amazing. Thomas, I saw that you put up a record.
I have 2 records, so I'm not sure. I have one for the last one, and I found half a library record still in this on the table here.
Okay.
You want to hear half of the library record?
Yeah, of course. I want to hear the half. jacket is amazing. That was very nice.
I think Stanley knows more than I do, but I think like those tracks are much longer, so I think that's why they ended up on an album and not on the KLM
KPM.
KPM where he did most of his records.
And wonderful.
Yeah, that's it. No, Brian Bennett is one of the big names on the KPM rooster on the team there, and a lot of stuff like that, and a lot. He did all kinds of music, but this one was he did dabble in this kind of like minimal funk stuff.
Wonderful. The original is easy to get, difficult to get, Stunty?
I don't know. I got mine like.
That's always the same. You know, when you have it, you have it. You don't look for it anymore. Yeah. Do you know more of the availability of this record, Thomas?
I think it's not that difficult to find. I haven't looked it up. I bought it also many years ago, but I think I will guess it will be around 50 to 80 euro.
Okay,
that's my. It's not like It's not like rare.
Good.
Generally, the British library soundtracks are not as rare as the Italian and as the Italian ones, and the rare British ones are not as rare as the rare French ones, which is why the mystique is really with the Italian ones, and then with the French ones, and then with the British ones. Of course, the ones that are the most famous are the British ones, because that's where the diggers culture started. That they started to share, but the amount of library soundtracks from Britain that is like patriotic tunes, brass, and stuff like that. I mean,
and you went all through it, poor Stunty, just to figure out the good stuff.
Well, everything I found, yeah. No, you know what? When you see national anthems, I don't even test.
How many years you spent with listening to not so cool music, and Thomas probably the same, right? Just to figure out the good stuff, and now you share the good stuff, and nobody sees the hours you and this nice man from Copenhagen put into it to provide us and give us such enjoyment with the cool stuff. We cannot thank you both enough for doing this. Maybe we should think more about this. How many hours gets into putting out those records and finding those records?
Go on.
I think it's you spend so much time listening to shit records that you don't have time to listen to the good ones. And sometimes you listen so much to shit records that you find one that's not that shit, and you actually find it good. But then later you compare it to the good ones, you're like, okay, it's not good.
Yeah, that's a regular feature of our everyday life, I would say. Like to get excited about something because you and I have that with new stuff even more. I would say, like, oh, this stands out a little bit, so you build up for something much bigger than it actually is, and you always land on Earth eventually. Gravity hits, but yeah. No, but if you want to thank us, like in my case, come to my streams on Fridays and support the channel on Stunt Rock Confusion.
Exactly. There's a good opportunity to show some respect and get also an enjoyment on Stunty's Friday streams. They are for sure a stream to go. And there's no excuse not to go. There is always, of course, but it sounded cool.
Yeah. On Friday, I will play this, by the way.
Okay.
Thomas didn't show that, but he showed the record from that label last week.
Yeah, it's again this Portuguese label, right? With
Principe. And this is one of the few ones I missed back then that I've been after for a long time, and there you go.
Stunty, you have one, or was it?
I'm good. I think we're good. I think we should tell the people to go home.
No, I don't do that because we have another highlight. Because last week, and now I remember Thomas had the last choice again, and you played that amazing Sharp track on the German record. Remember, with the spices?
Yeah.
That was very, very nice track.
I think it was this one, yeah.
Exact. Yeah. Seeds, not spices. Seeds, excuse me. That was killer stuff.
I have a last track for tonight as well.
Oh, come on. We always have next week, Thomas.
Yeah, but it's just to make it for next week. Because today or very soon, this record is coming out. And I'm a little afraid to play something from it tonight, but I heard it and it's amazing.
Okay.
It's a New Scientist album.
Wow.
And it will be released, I think, this week.
Cool.
And it comes in two versions, a one with the booklet and one with the record.
And one for the people who don't know how to read.
or they just want to listen to the music.
Yeah, so it's recorded this year in Holland, and I heard it today, and it's amazing. But I was afraid to play because I know they need to improve the record before I can play it. But next week I'll play something.
What do you mean? What do you mean they need to improve the record before?
They need to check that the pressing quality is good.
So wait, now that's interesting because I was like, what the hell is going on that cover? So you mean that like they press a jacket and it's actually not a vinyl record? It's a dub plate inside of it.
No, it is a vinyl record.
Oh, and they just like thought like, oh, we fucked up and we need to repress the whole thing?
No, it's just like it needs to be improved by the scientist and.
Yeah, but so but you have a record in this, right?
Yeah,
and
so it is made. It is made, but it.
Maybe are you saying that this is like a rejected version?
Yeah, maybe they just recheck something.
They just need to check before it get. I distribute some of the records for those guys. So
we will listen to this next week if it's allowed. Yeah, cool. Scientist is amazing. So the last record of today's stream was a record we could not play.
No, I found another one of my favorite reggae record.
Cool. So we have a track at the end. Okay.
Yeah, I will start it up and show the cover.
Right. Night tonight.
Off now, and maybe I can convince Dante and Thomas to play us some reggae next week. I would like to hear more reggae. We will see. Thank you all for staying with us. It's been a pleasure with you. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.